Hey everybody, I'm John, and this is Lampworking 101, how to make the Indiana Beach Crow. Today I'll be teaching you how to make the mascot from Indiana Beach Amusement and Water Park. I'll show you all the steps involved from start to finish on how to make these wonderful anthropomorphic little crows. Alright, without any further ado, let's roll the intro. The Glass Phoenix now. Lampworking 101, Indiana Beach Crow. Let's get things fired up. We need a piece of black glass. What we want to do is start out by heating up the end of this black rod and gathering a ball. This is what's going to be the top of our head. Once we've got the mask that we're looking to create, we'll need a stick of yellow glass. We're going to create a ball of glass on the end of the rod. Once we have the size that we're looking for, we can grab our mashers and give them a nice smash. Once we've got a disc to work with, we can then go into the flame and begin the welding process. So what you'll see here is we're going to warm up the disc, making sure it's evenly heated, and we're going to use just the edge of the flame. We'll heat up the edge of the yellow disc and a little bit of the head here. So we can see the yellow disc is only half heated. That's because we want to melt together the two pieces here, getting them to flow evenly together, but we don't want to change the shape of the yellow disc. So just the two portions that we want to connect together. Once we've got the connection well made, we'll introduce the piece back into the flames and melt in any sort of imperfections, undercuts, and creases and such. That looks good. We'll let that lose a little bit of its heat, let the head itself cool so we don't change its shape, and focus the flame really on just the yellow disc here. What we're doing here is getting enough heat into the disc itself so that way here in a second we can stretch it. That looks about good, so we'll give it a little bit of a stretch here. We can see it elongates and starts to create the beak. Look at that, great. All right, once we've got it more or less the shape that we want, we can go back in and fire cut through the tip of the beak here. Go in, just heating up the end here, stretching it into a nice fine point. That looks about right. So now we'll fire cut all the way through. Get rid of that yellow stick. And now we've got that flat disc on there. We want to add a little curve with the spatula end of this dental pick tool. So what we'll do is we'll heat up the yellow disc again, the beak of this bird. Once we have a nice even orange glow all the way across that entire surface, let's see here, that looks like it's almost ready. We can now go into the marver and force the edge of the blade into the center of the beak and forcing the beak itself to take on the shape of that marver. Look at that. Looks pretty good. We now have a curved surface raised in the middle and the sides are going to go down. All right, now that we've got that done, we'll go in and start to heat up the yellow stick of glass again to create another disc. Once we have a mass of glass that's sufficient, we can then use our mashers again and squeeze that down into another little disc. This one's going to be slightly smaller than the first one we had, but what we're going to do is apply this inside the flame, getting the black head piece here and the yellow stick of glass that we just created the disc. We're going to get those really hot inside the flame and make the connection inside the flame. We want them to become kind of liquidy and flow together. There we go. Melt in a little bit more, make sure we have a really good connection. And once that's done, we can then go in and start heating the whole piece of glass here, this whole piece of yellow that we just attached. Once we get enough heat base into that where we can see it glowing nice and evenly, we can then begin stretching that out. We're almost there. That looks pretty good. We'll give it a little stretch here, straighten it out a bit, but we need a little more heat, not quite enough there. Get a little more. We'll see a nice even glow of orange all the way throughout. That looks great. Look how malleable. So we'll start stretching that out. Look at it from different angles so that way we make sure it's exactly the way we want it to be. If we only look at it from one side, it might be a little bit twisted or off shape. But once we've got it the way we like, we can then go back into the flame and fire cut through that. Let's see here. I'll set the yellow down and take a peek. It looks pretty good. What do you think? Yeah, that looks great. Slightly shorter lower bill piece and the nice curved upper beak. So now that we've got that done, what we need to do is add the eyes. We're going to use a white stick of glass here, and we're going to get the white stick really, really hot in the flame and just using the edge of the flame to warm up the base of the head. We're going to attach that in, melt it in a little bit, and take a peek. Oh, it's pretty bright. Let's let it cool down just a little bit. There we go. So we've got the one eye on. We'll now go in again with that white stick, getting it really white hot. Touch it on and fire cut through. Now we've got two eyes on here. Let's take a peek. Great. I love the placement of those. Everything looks wonderful. So now we can go in with the black stick of glass and add the pupils. So we'll just do a little dot and another little dot and get those right in the center of those pieces of white that we just applied on. Melt it in a little bit and take a look. It's a little warm yet, and there you go. You can now see that it's cooled just a little bit. Those little pupils are right there, right where we wanted them. Excellent. All right, so now we've got that done. Let's grab a piece of clear glass and put on a punty. So we'll warm the two ends up, both the top of the head and the end of the stick, and we'll attach them outside the flame so we've got some stress. So later we can just tap this on the torch and remove it. But once we've got the connection made, we need to fire cut through the neck. So we'll get rid of the base of that black stick of glass, doing little twists to remove it. Tidy up the end of that black stick so it's nice and tidy later, and take a look here. See that nice orange glow? And we've left a significant amount here for us to be able to use. We want to be able to have an actual neck, but we need to use a white stick now to create a t-shirt and the torso of this little crow. So we'll heat up a mass of glass here, get a sufficient portion made up. It's going to be a larger amount than we had for the head. And once we have it ready, we can use our mashers to smash this down. Don't want to go too flat on this one because we want to have a little bit of bulk for the shoulders and whatnot. But once we get that all shaped up, we can then put the two together inside the flame. So we'll get them both warm and then attach them together, straighten everything out, make sure that we've got everything exactly how and where we want it. That looks pretty good. There we go. Straighten it out and lose a little bit of that color. So now we can move on just a little bit lower, avoiding heating exactly the neck, but instead down towards the base of the stick, adding a little extra mass and smashing it down to get it shaped just the way we want. And then once we've got enough mass there, we can turn our stick of white glass at a 90-degree angle and remove any extra, tidy up, put it down, and we can see we've now got a wonderful upper torso to work with. All right, let's take a look. Yep, shoulders, waist, a little curve for the back. All right, I like it. What we can do now is make some shorts. We'll use a red stick of glass here, and we're going to heat up a mass of glass here, gathering it all up, keeping the torso itself that we just worked on warm so it's by the flame. Not directly in, but by the flame. And then we'll just heat up a mass and flatten it out just a little bit. We don't have to get a flat disc, so we'll just do the marver here. And we're going to now get both the edges nice and white hot. We'll put them together inside the flame, so once everything's really molten, it'll flow together and make a really good connection. There you go. Check it out. Look at that glow. Really hot there. Well-made connection. So now we can fire cut through the base. Notice that we're continually moving down from the head, further and further. We'll shape this up just a little bit more here. Let's go back in, heat it up, and we'll remove this stick of glass here. We'll turn it at a 90-degree angle, pull away any extra that we don't want, little spiral to remove the extra and tidy up. And then we can now grab our dental pick here and go in and smash that right down the middle. What we're doing is creating the crotch here by indenting it, but that's going to be the start of the legs. So we'll just go in here and really accentuate that. We're going to start at the front, rotate and marver it down towards the back. Don't quite have enough heat in there, so we'll go in again and heat up the back side. Now we've got the start of the two legs. Let's see here. All right, take a look. The two legs, it's just the shorts here. But while we still have it nice and hot, we're continuing, like I said, working away from the head and moving down the body. But before we let the shoulders get too cold, we should put the arms on. So we'll take a black stick of glass and heat up right where the shoulder is at here. We're going to make the connection inside the flame, so that way everything is melted really well. We'll push the two together, get a nice solid connection, and that looks great. We'll get it just off here so the shoulder is kicked back just slightly, and then we'll go in and start heating up for the rest of the arm. So we're going to make sure that's exactly how we want it. We'll shape it a little bit, bring it down so it's parallel with the rest of the body. That looks pretty good. So we'll let it lose a little bit of the heat, and then we'll go in and start heating up for the elbow. We want to make sure that the elbow is nice and hot, keeping our hands in a great position, and we'll then pull it out of the flame so we can see what we're doing and bend that elbow. Watch to lose a little bit more of that heat. Look how the color rapidly goes from that white hot to a nice dull orange. And then we can go back in and fire cut just beyond the wrist. We want to leave a little extra mass here for the hand. While we still have a good heat base, check it out, still nice and glowing orange. We'll go right back in real quick, heat it up just a little more, and then we'll smash it down with the tweezers. We don't need the big mashers this time, just the tweezers are sufficient. We've got a small piece of glass here, but we'll smash it down and give a little twist so the hand creates that nice curved, natural hand. And then we'll go in with another small diameter piece of black and add the thumb. While it's still nice and hot, we'll give a little bit of a twist so everything's got a nice, natural, loose hand shape. And then we'll fire cut through the tip of the thumb. A little stretch here to thin out the glass, and fire cut through. Gently using the edge of the torch. And now we've got that done. We'll use this black rod again. A little bit larger diameter again. Oh, yeah, check it out. You actually get to see the hand and such. There we go. But we don't want to wait too long, so let's get right back in before we lose our heat. We don't want anything to crack, so we're going to heat up the tip of the black rod and the shoulder and melt those two together inside the flame, getting rid of any of the creases or undercuts. And then we'll pull that out, shape it just a little bit here. It's pretty good, but we need to go back into the fire here so we can then move the glass just a little bit more. And maybe even start shaping that elbow. There we go. Put a bend in there, and now I like the shape of that, so we'll go ahead and fire cut through the hand here just above the wrist to start creating the shape for the hand. Once again, we want to move pretty quickly so we don't have the heat base drop down, but you can see there's a nice orange glow. Using tweezers again, we'll just heat and twist, pull, smash, twist, heat, pull, smash. That looks great. Okay, now we'll grab the small diameter black rod again, and while everything's still warm, we're going to add on the thumb. So we're going to do the weld inside the flame again, making that connection. Pull it out just a little bit so we can see what we're doing, and then shaping that thumb. Now pull some of the extra out, getting a nice curved structure here. And I like the look of that. Oh yeah, look at that thumb. That's great. Love it. All right, we've got the upper part of the body done. Now we just have to put on some legs. So we'll use this yellow stick of glass, and we will introduce both of those pieces right into the flame, getting both those connection points really, really hot. Once we see there's a nice even glow, we'll attach them together inside the flame. And I need to adjust the flame here just a little bit. That's a little bigger than I wanted. So we'll adjust it so we've got a nice proper size flame, and adjust this. I got a little bit off there. I want to have this leg nice and straight. That looks pretty good. And once again, I'm continually rotating and looking at it from all angles, so that way I don't have any weird curves or it's not off center at one angle or another. But once I'm happy, I can then fire cut through right at the ankle. We'll get that shaped up. And now we can put on the second leg. We'll put those two together once again inside the flame once we get a nice even orange, and we'll start shaping that. When you get these connections, every once in a while you have something that's a little bit off, so you have to go in and shape, but I like that. So we'll put the knee in here, heating again, getting the shape just right. Once we have that, we can then fire cut through just below the ankle. There we go, little turn to remove the extra. Give me a second here and I'll show you what it looks like. There you go. Still nice and hot, but we've got that one straight leg and one that's got a slight bend to it. Now we need to go in and create the feet. So we're going to heat up just a little bit of this yellow glass. And while it's really, really hot, we'll use the tweezers again. We're going to flatten out a disc. So we're going to get it really, really hot. And starting close to the stick where it's nice and cold, we'll heat and smash all the way out. And then we'll turn it at a 90-degree angle and heat up and smash just the tip. So that way we've got a narrowed heel. We'll melt the heel in the flame and connect it to the ankle. We'll do that, getting them inside the flame, melting it in, getting rid of any creases, and then we'll smash down real flat, get the bottom exactly like we want. Get those shaped. That looks great. And now we can go in and fire cut through the tip of the toe here. We're going to stretch that out so it'll give us a long central toe on the end of this foot. We'll fire cut through. And you can see here, after we flatten it out a little bit, we've got a nice pointed toe. So now we're going to go into the side, heat up just one side, and then give a little bit of a tug and stretch those toes out. Look at that. Perfect. All right, we're going to go through again and add the second disc for the second foot. So we're going to heat up the end of this stick of glass. Once we've got it nice and molten orange, we'll use our tweezers again. Heat this up. Then we'll go ahead and, let's see, smash, 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 working from the cold stick out to the end. And we'll heat it up a little more. 90-degree turn here and watch smashing to get that heel shape. Okay, now we've got a heel and we are going to connect it to the ankle. So inside the flame again, making a really solid connection. We'll smash it on in here. There we go. Oh, tweak. That looks pretty good, I think. So now we'll flame cut right through the toe here. Notice that the rest of the body never goes back into the flame. All right, once we have enough heat, we will stretch things out and create that elongated toe in the center. Flatten it out and heat up just the edge of the foot again. So that way once we have one half of the foot hot, we can then poke and pull. That's a cold stick of glass, or relatively cool, and a very hot toe that we were pulling out. So that way the hot will stretch. But take a look at that. See those toes? It looks pretty good, huh? I like it. All right. So now that this is pretty much done, we've got a figure. We can now go on to the next step. But hold on. I need to put this in the kiln so that way we can create a base. To create the base, we're going to need a clear rod of glass. This is going to be a little bit larger than we've been working with. And what we need to do is boost up the size of our flame, make it a little more intense so we can get through this. Now the flame's nice and hot, we'll heat up the end of this. We're going to gather together about a 1-inch piece here. Once we've got the tip of that rod hot, we'll use our mashers. And we are going to smash this down. Smush, smush, and pull and smush. All right, that looks pretty good. We've got a nice disc shape here. So what we're going to do is take this disc, and as it cools down just a little bit, we are going to cool our tool so we don't burn ourselves, and then grab a clear stick of glass to put on a punty. Now a punty, we're going to get both pieces, just the edges, nice and hot. But then once we get the nice glow into both pieces, we're going to connect them outside of the flame. This is intentionally putting some stress in there so later we can tap it on the edge of the torch and remove it. And once we've got that connected, we can go back into the fire at the opposite end of the disc and remove that original rod. Fire cut through that, and we'll see that once we do a little tidying up here, that there's a little bit of a extra nub of glass in the end of our disc. So we're going to melt that in a bit. and we'll shape it down. Just flatten it out. Here we go with the mashers again. Smush, smush, smush. That looks pretty even and it looks pretty good. So now that we've got this wonderful disc to work with, you know what the next step is? We have to go get our bird. So let's put those two together. We're going to put them together just like this. What we want to do is do that inside the flame. So we're going to get our body situated and put them together just like this. Both pieces are on the edge of the flame, and we're going to put them together inside the flame, getting a good connection, but we want to move relatively quickly and not get the feet too hot because we don't want those to get changed in shape. So we're going to work in sections. We'll heat it up, mash it out flat, heat it up again here, and then adjust the angle in which it's standing. We're going to make sure it stands up just right. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to fire cut through that initial handle here. It's got some stress and there, so we can snap it off. Now we've got a bird, the crow that's standing on this disc, and we can set that up on any flat surface and it should be able to stand just fine by itself. Looks great. Now that we've got this done, what we need to do is grab a tool called Hot Fingers. Take a look here. That's what it looks like. So we're going to put it together, grab the bird with the hot fingers, and we'll warm the hot fingers just a bit so we don't crack the glass, but then look, tap. That's where that stress punty was used earlier. Now, it might leave a little sharp edge on the top of the head, so we're going to fire polish that in, and then take a look. Looks great. And that's it. All right. This is The Glass Phoenix, and this has been a production of Glass Phoenix Now. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to the channel if you see value in this production, and hit the like. Also, share with anybody else that you think might enjoy this program. Come and see us at Indiana Beach, where you can actually buy these in the Glass Phoenix shop, located right next to the Frankenstein's Castle. Until the future, my friends, peace out.